Hi there, my name is David and welcome to Bricks, Blocks and Mocks. So finally another design process video, or however you create the video or whatever. Today I'm gonna do a car that has been very requested, and it's the Mercedes-AMG GT 4-door. And as some of you may know, I already made the normal AMG GT or GTR, and I also made instructions for that, which you can find as always on my website. But yeah, anyway, today is all about the AMG GT 4-door. And what I kinda realized yesterday is that I only made like bigger cars with back seats for these design process videos. I made a G63 AMG, which is more of an SUV of course. I made the M3, and then I made the Gemera, which is kind of a car in a class of its own, but it has back seats. And then now I'm making the AMG GT 4-door, which of course also has back seats. So I feel like that's maybe a bit weird or strange, but yeah, I really wanted to make this car and it has been very requested. So yeah, whatever, I'm gonna make it. But yeah, before we get into the design process of this car, and also I haven't started anything on this car, but of course I'm gonna take a lot of inspiration from the AMG GTR, which I've already designed. But yeah, I haven't started on this car. I know I'm gonna have to do one bricklink order at least, and the reason I haven't done it yet is because I want to see if I need any more parts. Before we get into the design process, don't forget as always to like and subscribe if you haven't already. But yeah, let's get into the design process of the AMG GT 4-door. Alright, so I started a bit on the car now, very little though. I didn't say this before, but my plan is that it's gonna be dark bluish grey, as you can see now. Some issues, it's not really an issue, but as I said before, I knew that it was at least one piece that I need to order, but I wasn't too sure actually. So usually when I don't really know if I have the piece or not, I'm pretty sure I don't have it this time, but I very often use bricklink. I use bricklink a lot more than to just order pieces, and I will show you. Alright, so the parts I don't really know if I have are these actually. These are my AMG GTRs that I built. It's these parts, like for the side of the front grille here, and I only have them in red, black and light bluish grey, I think. But what I usually do to just check if I have them, oh no, in some other color, is actually I go onto bricklink, and I like to think about parts awareness often. It's mostly for me just knowing which parts that actually exist in Lego, because they always come up with new parts that haven't existed, and it's also a lot of parts that are old parts that they don't manufacture anymore. I don't know every single part Lego has ever made, but it's very good to have a bit of an understanding or know which parts Lego have made. But parts awareness can also be about knowing which parts you actually have, and sometimes it is a bit hard to know which parts you have, because so yeah, and I also have a few sets at least built up that could have parts that I need for this in them. As I said, I want one of these in dark bluish grey, or actually two of these in dark bluish grey. I need two of those. So what I usually do is search for these parts on bricklink, and I know these parts are under the category plate round, and then you can go down, and yeah, as you can see, it's even dark bluish grey here. And what you can do to see if you have this, because I know pretty good which sets I own, so what I can do is go over here where it says item appears in 361 sets. Here it exists in white, these sets, and then you just have to go down to the dark bluish grey section. So here you can see which sets this appears in, and also how many that appears in that particular set. No, but yeah, it doesn't seem like I own any of these sets actually. I should own this, but I don't. No, I don't own any of these sets. So yeah, I now know that I will need to order a dark bluish grey or whatever of this sort. But yeah, other than that, I've started to build this, and to get the scale right and all that for your models, it's always a bit tricky, and I always look at the blueprint just to have the model scale as properly as possible to the real model. What I mostly look at is actually how long it has to be between these two. I found out that the best distance to have between these wheel arches are 7 studs, almost always, but this is a bit of a bigger car, it's a 4-door car. So then I will have 8 studs between these, and I think that will work pretty well. Then it will actually be, these cars are actually, it's like 3 studs long here at the front from the wheel arch here, so 3 studs forward, which is a bit too long forward, I think, but it kind of have to be that many times just because I want to cram in these details. But yeah, other than that, as you can see here at the front, I used these wheel arches. I could have used those wheel arches at the front for these models as well, at least the dark bluish gray one and the white one, but they don't exist in green. I actually began designing the green, which meant I decided to use these type of wheel arches for all the models, but I usually like to use these type of wheel arches at the front normally, just to get the front a bit lower. I think it will look pretty good. But yeah, I'm gonna do a bit more progress on this now and get back to you if anything major happens. So yeah, let's do that right now. Alright, so I've now made the front of the car, or most of the front at least, and I think it turned out pretty good. It's actually a bit different from my AMG GTR models. The biggest difference is that I actually decided that I would make the front like 1 stud shorter here, so it sticks out to 2 studs instead of 3. One other thing I also tried to lower this part, or just lower all of this like 1 plate, because that would have matched the blueprints a bit better and it would have scaled a bit better with the wheels and so on. By the way, I'm not gonna use these rims, so I'm gonna do some other custom 3D printed rims for this. So yeah, I think that would have scaled a bit better with the wheels. But yeah, I just really liked how this front, this very aggressive, kind of thick front turned out. It looked a bit too low when I made it 1 plate lower. So yeah, sometimes it's better to go a bit off of the blueprints and create what you think actually looks good in a Lego format. But yeah, other than that, the grille is created in a very similar way to my AMG GTR models, and yeah, the lights are created a bit differently. But yeah, other than that, I'm just gonna keep on building, and yeah. So I've done a bit more progress now, or it actually looks like I've done quite a lot of progress. But yeah, now the struggle begins, as always. But yeah, let's take a look. So yeah, this is the progress I've done, but it's quite a lot of things that are quite uncertain. First of all, as you can see, I decided to use this classic windscreen again, but I don't really know if it will work. As you know, of course, for the BMW M3 I decided to use this windscreen, even if it didn't really fit. The problem with this windscreen, I'm a bit surprised that Lego didn't really make it like a bit less angled or whatever, because I used this windscreen quite a lot recently, and what I've noticed is that it's actually a bit more angled than windscreens most cars has. So yeah, I feel it's a bit weird that Lego made it this way. But yeah, it is what it is. And of course I can decide to use Barbies instead, which I'm kind of thinking about. Other than that, I started a bit on a roofline, on a very simple roofline. I think it kind of works, but I feel like I want to do something a bit better than this. And then after that, I started on the doors, and of course they aren't attached. But yeah, for the doors I'm gonna do my 2-point hinge technique, which I'm always rambling on about. And then I have begun on the rear here. I've just noticed that it will begin to struggle a bit here at the rear, because it has quite a lot of details at the rear part of the car. This is the struggle I was talking about. But yeah, of course, as most times, I will find a way to make it look relatively good. But yeah, other than that, it's actually quite late here right now, but I still think I'm gonna build a little bit more, but I might not film anything more today. But yeah, I'm gonna keep on trying to figure out a good way to make the rear of the car. So yeah. Alright, so it's actually 2 days since I last filmed, and this is the progress I've done so far. I'm actually pretty done with the rear of the car, and I created an openable trunk. The thing is, as I mentioned before, I am a bit skeptical about the roofline of the car, because it just doesn't really match up to the real one that good. The sloping downwards here starts actually a bit earlier, and it's not really such a drastic curve as this is. So I don't really know if I can use these curved pieces, and I have been kinda contemplating if I want to keep this roofline or if I'm gonna try and make something else. And when I added this openable trunk, I just felt like because when I look at openable trunk on the real car, there you can really see that it really isn't this drastic of a curve. It's more flat actually. So I've kind of decided now that I will do something else for the roofline, because I think that will turn out better. And I think I'm also gonna use, or actually I'm not sure if I'm gonna use the bar pieces for the A-pillars here, because I kind of like to have this windscreen. Now I also use this windscreen for the AMG GTR, so it could be nice to use it for this car as well. And what I also will do now is to design some custom rims for this model, because I think I said it in the last video as well, but yeah, custom rims has kind of been a standard for my cars nowadays. So yeah, I will do that and fix the roofline, and yeah. Alright, so I stopped the time-lapse here a bit, just to show you my progress so far. I actually, as you can see, I actually removed this windscreen just to try and use these bar pieces like the first version with, or not, a second version, just to see what I can achieve by using these instead of this. And I think the roofline itself matched up to the real one a lot better like this. But what I don't really like is, first of all, it doesn't look as sleek now here at the rear. If I decide to go with this solution instead of using this windscreen, I will absolutely be able to like move this whole section just a tiny bit so it will match up better with this slope. And what I also will do then, the curve I wanted to create with these cheese slope pieces kind of eliminates now, just flat, because of this trunk that is angled. So then I would probably remove these cheese pieces and attach them like, how should I explain it? Like 90 degrees like this instead of in an angle. The trunk can still be open, but the problem now is, as you can see, this. I might be able to solve that also a bit better if I decide to go with this. And yeah, you can see this is not a good solution to do with one hand. And as you also can see, I changed how I attach the spoiler just to get this little angle so it could counteract with the angle of the trunk. But yeah, the roofline itself looks better this way, but now I think I'm gonna try to do a third version using this windscreen. So yeah. Alright, so I've now created a third version of the roofline, and I think this version is by far the best. And it's actually also maybe one of my most cleverly designed rooflines, and I'm gonna try to explain why. First of all, as you can see, I was able to use this windscreen for this model, which means that it blends in very, very well with the AMG GTR. So I mentioned two issues with the roofline before. First of all, I said that I think this windscreen, for most cars, it is a bit too flat of an angle or too steep or whatever. But to solve that, I actually used a hinge piece here at the front. I think I used this particular technique once before or so, but what I've done is that I've angled this windscreen slightly upwards to make this windscreen curve less flat. But what it also does is that it counteracts these curved slopes, which I also said before was in a too steep of an angle, which means that they are now a bit more flat, which means that it better matches the real roofline of the real car. Then I can match up these tiles a lot better with the first part of the roofline to finish off this whole roofline section. And yet these tiles are angled just by using some 1x1 round plates with a bar, as you know that I many times use, and they are attached just to a tile hinge piece. And yeah, that's basically it. But yeah, all these techniques I actually used before, but not all together, which in my opinion makes this a very cleverly designed roofline. And what makes it even better is that it actually also is pretty sturdy, because I not only used a hinge piece here at the front, I also used one at the rear for this part of the roofline, which yeah makes it really sturdy. The downside is that it's a bit more tricky to remove this roofline to be able to fit minifigs inside, which I haven't really tested if it will fit like 4 minifigs, but I hope so at least. And of course the trunk is still openable, but it's a bit of a different mechanism now. It's actually a lot better because again I used my 2-point hinge technique for this. So yeah, that's about it for the roofline. So now I think I'm gonna try to design the engine and the interior of the car, and then I might have to try to design a bit of the openable doors as well. So yeah, I'm gonna try to focus a bit on the interior and the engine now. Let's do that. Alright, so it went pretty quickly, at least for you here at the end, because I decided to just completely finish it now and then catch up with you on what I've done. For me though, it hasn't been such a quick progress now, because a lot of reasons. Because first of all, as I said already in the beginning, I made a bricklink order, not a big one, but it was some parts I needed to order. And the second thing that took the absolute most time was that I decided to go a bit over ambitious with the custom rims for this model. So I had to order some paints for these rims, which actually took a lot longer than I thought. But yeah, it's done now, and I'm gonna go through what I've done with the model now. So first of all, let's start with the small details. I've added an interior that fits 4 minifigs. Of course, as always, when my models can fit 4 minifigs, it's pretty cramped, especially for those minifigs who sit in the back seats. And then I also added a bit of engine details. I would actually have liked the engine and the interior to be a bit more detailed for this model, but it just didn't fit. And the reason I couldn't fit more engine details was because of the openable hood mechanism. And the hood mechanism takes use of my 2-point hinge technique, but I'm especially happy with how this 2-point hinge technique turned out. As you might be able to understand, or if I explain it sometime, or if you have built any of my models that has 2-point hinge technique, it can many times be a bit tricky to get to whatever openable thing it is, hood, door or whatever, in place. But this front hood actually automatically goes into place very nicely. And that was actually a coincidence, because when I was going to attach the 2 1x1 hinges that sits on the hood, I used some inverted 1x2 curved slopes to like secure them a bit better, to make it a bit more durable. But those inverted 2x1 curved slopes turned out to have a second function as well, because it's actually those curves that guides the hood into place by sliding along the vehicle mud guards. And yeah, that was a total coincidence that worked so well. And also, of course, I added some openable doors that also use my 2-point hinge technique. Actually, everything that is openable in this car uses my 2-point hinge technique. But yeah, the doors, they are 4 openable doors and they use my 2-point hinge technique, and it works pretty well. Here though, they are a bit tricky, and to attach these hinges for the 2-point hinge technique, I actually use some tube bar pieces inside that sits on some jumper plates. But yeah, other than that, I don't think it's anything more to mention. I haven't really done anything to the rear. I changed out some wedge plates to some other type of wedge plates that I ordered on the bricklink, and yeah, the trunk works the same. Yeah, that's about it for today's video, I think. Don't forget, as always, to like and subscribe. It's really appreciated. But yeah, other than that, follow me on Instagram, and yeah, I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.